Good to see you. Assalamu alaikum.
السلام عليكم. الله يخليك. هي دوين. الله يسلمك. كيف
أهلا بكم. الحمد لله، كيف الصحة؟ الله يحميكم يا رب. السلام عليكم. السلام مبارك. السلام.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله
أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله.
حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا كما أمر، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. عباد الله، أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله تعالى كما قال سبحانه في كتابه الكريم بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم: يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. We praise Allah. We begin in His name, the most merciful, the most kind. We ask Him to send His peace and blessings upon our noble messenger Muhammad, the final guide and emissary, and upon his family and upon his companions through his sacrifices who are Muslim today, and upon all guides and messengers that came before him as guides to humanity. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. One time I was on my way to a khutbah with my father. MashaAllah, he never lets me drive because he always wants the ajr, he wants the reward of taking, someone that's about to benefit people to their place. Adab, which we'll get to. And on the way to the khutbah, he told me, "Are you going to prepare?" And I said, "I'm okay. I've given this khutbah before. Inshallah, I'm confident, I'm ready." And then, my father's always been very gentle in his tarbiyah, but that doesn't mean it's not scathing and doesn't feel that way. And so he kind of looks at me while he was driving, and he said, "You should prepare, even if you know what you're about to say." Why? The reason why is because of adab. Adab. Adab is what gives this religion its expressive beauty. It doesn't matter if you know what you're going to say in your khutbah. You're about to stand in the pulpit of the Prophet ﷺ. You're about to be an expression of the greatest of creation in trying to first remind yourself and others out of preserving respect for this position. Even if you know what you're about to say, honor the hour before the khutbah by preparing. Revise out of adab to Allah, out of having good comportment, character with Allah. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, وَمَنْ يُعَظِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّهَا مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. We're about to approach Ramadan, and it's about taqwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, a sign that taqwa exists in your heart is that that which God has made sacred, you honor. That which God has made sacred, you honor. This is why in every Muslim culture, till this day, when a Quran is dropped on the floor, what happens? Immediately we pick it up and we kiss it. And unfortunately, there are people who take these beautiful adab and say, "Oh, this is prohibited, it's a bid'ah." This is a complete misunderstanding of how culture manifests rooted in the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. No, that is not. That is an honoring of what God has made sacred. This is a Quran. It's not just any other book. I don't just pick it up and put it back on the shelf. I need to remind my heart in whatever way I do so, I can't believe I allowed this Quran to drop or be on the floor. Adab. Ta'zeem, sha'air Allah. What is greater in symbols than the Quran? Right? And don't worry, we have a Usul Bid'ah workshop if those interested. That wasn't even a plug. I wasn't even going to give this example. But adab is one of the most beautiful things that we can't really describe in a lot of detail in 15 minutes. But the Prophet ﷺ tells us that our religion is three-dimensional. Islam, Iman, Ihsan. And some ulama say it's four-dimensional because they say that signs of the end of times is actually a fourth dimension. It's a fiqh of tahawulat, which is necessary for the other three dimensions. Islam represents the outward practice of Islam, the religion. Our behavioral alignment with God's divine intent. Iman is the belief system rooted in the Quran, the Sunnah, and first principles of reason. Iman. And then, that's our theology. And then there's ihsan. The Prophet ﷺ says, ihsan is to worship, devote yourself to God as though you see Him. And in all things, okay, that's the crucial tafsir that we forget. To worship Allah as though you see Him in everything. Everything that you do is informed by an awareness of Allah, taqwa. And when you are not able to do that, know that at the very least Allah is aware. Allah is aware. When you slip, fall, have ghafla, subhanallah, I can't believe I had ghafla. I need to turn back to Allah. That's what Ramadan is there for us. Ramadan is there for us to recognize 11 months of potential ghafla. May Allah forgive us. All of us are in states of heedlessness. This is a part of being an insan, min nasiya, right? It's from, we forget. That's why our whole deen can be summarized into, one word, dhikr. Because dhikr is the foundation of ibadah, ma'rifah, as Ibn Abbas says. So, adab is what ihsan looks like in public. Ihsan actually means beauty. Because when we see God in all that we do, everything that comes from us is beautiful. Because it's connected to the source of beauty. And when we forget God in all that we do, and it's not just ibadah, in our workplace, whatever it may be, whatever projects we have, it by definition is ugly. And it will only be ugly. Adab is what that looks like in public. Adab is what that looks like, as Ibn Qayyim says, adab is khuluq expressed. Khuluq is what? Good character. The Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ I have not been sent except to perfect good character, morals, internal morals. Adab is what? Adab is a manifestation of what's inside your heart. Adab is a manifestation of what's inside your heart. Now, adab, of course, can be performative and, fake and at times. But true adab, as Ibn Qayyim is telling us, is what is your khuluq? Do you have envy in your heart? How you treat people will depend on that. You have envy in your heart, you will have bad adab with people. You will be withholding. You have arrogance in your heart, you will treat others around you with an adab, with a manifestation of character that makes them feel less than you. This is Black History Month, right? And it's important you live in America. As Muslims, we live in America. You have to know your context. You have to know your land. And, Sheikh Ibrahim Niyas, who was the Sheikh al-Islam of his time, Sheikh Ibrahim Niyas, he said, تأدب في ظاهر وباطن. Have adab. Again, what is adab? Adab is to put things in their proper place. To put everything in their proper place. That's why in adib, what is an adib? My first name, my last name. Besides that, an adib is the one that is prolific in writing. Because a writer, a prolific writer, an excellent writer, knows where every letter and word should go. That's how we know, this is an amazing writer. That is how we should live our lives. That is the pursuit of excellence and ihsan. It manifests the litmus test for whether you're a muhsin or not. How does your adab look? How much adab do you have? This is why Shaykh Ibrahim, he says, تأدب في ظاهر وباطن. Have adab internally and outwardly. Because remember, it's a manifestation of what's inside you. به يرقى المرء للمواطن. It is through this, only through this, that the human being is elevated to the loftiest of positions. Adab is the mastering of emotional intelligence rooted in your worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not just, secular emotional intelligence is really, and I'm sorry to say it this way, but it can become the art of successful manipulation. Adab is emotional intelligence with taqwa. Awareness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And what have they proven now? I read a study recently. They said that the number one factor that contributes to people's success, CEOs and successful entrepreneurs, emotional intelligence. It's not your technical skills. How do you deal with people? How do you deal with conflict? Can you self-regulate? Or do you react immediately? Because the adab that you have depends on what's happening inside you. If you don't know how to emotionally regulate anger, you're going to be horrible to people. You're going to be a jerk. You're going to yell at people, and then you're going to find some way to justify it. There's no justification for that. It doesn't matter who you are. You can be the biggest sheikh. You don't yell. You don't yell at your students. You don't yell at people in your organization. This is not how we behave. This is a violation of adab. And there are 3 types of adab. Number 1, there's an adab with Allah. Number 2, there's an adab with the Prophet ﷺ. What is having adab with Allah? It's not just picking up the Quran and having a reverence for what Allah made sacred. It is ensuring that the commandments of God are implemented with ihsan. That's having adab with Allah. It's making sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's priorities for you are your greatest priorities. Allah's priorities for you are your greatest priorities. For example, when we plan our days, this is a takeaway. How about this? How about this? Make the khutbah easy, inshallah, we'll finish in a few minutes. If you take nothing, take this. When you plan your day, which you should, by the way, you should plan your day. What's the most important thing in your planning every day? If it's not your 5 daily prayers, bad adab with Allah. Bad adab with Allah. You've misplaced your priorities right off the bat. The priority that Allah has given you is salah. First thing you're asked about on the Day of Judgment. The second is adab with the Prophet ﷺ. Surah Al-Hujurat, which is the chapter in the Quran that really is the constitution of what community and brotherhood is supposed to be like. That's why the whole chapter is about adab. Like, you hear something, you don't just carry it. Horrible adab, horrible character. Verify it. Having good adab. Tabayyanu. Verify it. Adab with the Prophet ﷺ is honoring the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ as your priority. You don't, the chapter begins where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَا تُقَدِّمُوا بَيْنَ يَدَيِ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. Don't overspeak over the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. Yeah, this is a sunnah, but it's 2025 and we're Americans. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? The sunnah is the sunnah. No, we can implement it in ways that, inshallah, reflect our context, but the sunnah is the sunnah. Nothing is more valuable than the sunnah. Nothing is more important than the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And then the third is adab with people. Adab with each other. Right? I'm sorry to say it this way, but I think I should say it this way. The Prophet ﷺ said, there are those who fast and get nothing from their fast except hunger and thirst. And there are those who pray and get nothing from their prayer except sleeplessness and exhaustion. The Prophet ﷺ is telling us there's something deeper. What's that? What is that? What is deeper is that these acts of devotion to Allah done with ihsan is supposed to transform you such that you have ihsan and adab with other people. So if we come into the masjid and we don't even smile at each other, we don't even greet each other, we're constantly in conflict over the pettiest of things, you really haven't understood the manifestation of this deen. That's why the Prophet ﷺ says, by the virtue of someone's adab and character, they will attain ranks similar to the one that's up all night in prayer. Have we forgotten that the deen is about being a good person? It's sad that we have to say it like that. Like, if you're religious, but you're not a good person, you're a jerk to other people, that's not religiosity. That's nafs. That's an ego clothed in religiosity. That's not religiosity. You have work to do. We all have work to do. We all have work to do. And so, coming into Ramadan, we at times prioritize our personal piety. I have this goal, I'm going to do a khatam, I'm going to do all this. And then what happens? Because we're hangry, right? We're like horrible to people. We neglect our families. We neglect our friends. We even come to the masjid. I've seen this. I've been imam. I've been with my father my whole life in the community work. I've seen people come to Taraweeh. Allah's my witness. Pray 20 rak'ahs and not say salam to one person. What? What do you think this prayer is for? It's to transform you so that every single act is measured. Every single movement is intentional. Because you're flowing with God. You see God in everything. Oh, I'm coming to the masjid. I have my goals. Someone intercepts me. Wants to say salam. Oh my goodness, I don't like this guy. I want to get to my Quran. And the entire time we're just like, I can't wait to just get away from this guy so I can read my Quran. What is the sunnah? One time, one of the companions was sitting in the Prophet ﷺ's masjid. And someone entered the masjid asking, can someone help me for a need? Abdullah, I believe it was Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Immediately he stands up and moves to go help him. The companion said, you're in i'tikaf. You can't leave the masjid. Look at the prioritization. He says, don't you know, helping your brother or sister in need is better than 30 days of i'tikaf in the Prophet ﷺ's masjid. Adab. He came with a need. I'm going to fulfill it. That's why people like Malcolm, rahmatullah alayh, America's great imam, we don't talk about him enough. It's only in Black History Month that we talk about Malcolm X, Imam Malcolm, rahmatullah alayh. Look at how he talks. Every word is measured, dignified. How he walks, how he dresses. This is a believer. This is a believer manifesting ihsan. And so, I leave you with the question. As you leave this khutbah today. Are you rushing towards a religiosity at the expense of others? Are you practicing a religion that has lost its spirit? Because what is the ultimate foundation of adab? What is it? Mahabba. Love. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Lam tu'minu hatta tahab." You will not believe until you love. When you love, you have adab. And if you don't have adab, your love is deficient. We know. Everyone knows that. You see how the people are with mashayikh that they love, scholars and ulama that they love. They want to serve them. They want their priorities are over their needs are over their needs because there's real love there. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that love. Such that everything that we do manifests in the most beautiful way possible. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه.